I'll live with Mom and my lover, so we're getting a divorce. It's your fault for being so complacent. A moving company arrived at my parents' house while I was visiting, and all of my belongings were delivered there. As I stood there, bewildered, I heard Keith and my mother-in-law's cheerful voice coming from my phone, and I was mildly confused. I'm pretty sure Keith just mentioned his lover. I wasn't sure of my own memory, so I turned on my voice recorder. Would you repeat that one more time? I'll say it as many times as you want. I'm going to live with my mother and with Susan, so we're getting a divorce. Oh, is this the live-in manager? I'm Susan Brown. I've been dating Keith, so I expect divorce proceedings to go smoothly. The woman's voice on the phone was, surprisingly, that of my subordinate, Susan Brown. Susan was only 25, but was known for her skill in charming men. Her trademark was her upward inflection at the end of the sentences and referring to herself in the third person. I had no idea that my husband was cheating on me with her. I was no longer interested in her. I wanted to be true to my own feelings. Before I knew it, I was shouting with joy and raising both hands in the chair. I work for a foreign real estate investment firm where I hold the position of a manager. I married my husband, Keith, when I was 27. And we're about to celebrate our third wedding anniversary. Keith works in sales for a small manufacturer. His salary fluctuates greatly depending on whether he meets his monthly quota. Therefore, my salary, which is based on an annual contract, supports our household. Our dream as a couple is to live in our own home and build a happy family. We recently purchased a top-floor unit in a condominium being built near the station. We're excitedly waiting for construction to finish so we can move in. Our moving day is soon. Our dream is finally coming true. For us commuters, living near the station is a huge advantage. Our current rental apartment is a 15-minute walk from the station, which makes us sweat just from the commute in the summer. Our new place is closer to the station, so we might hear the noise from the trains. But being on the top floor, the sound shouldn't be too bad, and the soundproof glass will block out the noise. Yes, I'm looking forward to it. It's such a beautiful building, isn't it? Yeah, the entrance is made of marble. It's so luxurious. Oh, you two are being lovey-dovey again in the morning. My mother-in-law, June, came in while Keith and I were having breakfast and sat down next to Keith. Good morning, June. We were just talking about how the construction of the condo near the station is almost finished. Oh, that's wonderful news. I can't wait to see what the apartment looks like. There's no so-called mother-in-law, daughter-in-law conflict between June and me. At least, we haven't had any such trouble so far. That's why everyone's faces are so calm. Keith, June, and I were all sitting around the table with gentle smiles on our faces. At that moment, I had no idea the turmoil that was about to unfold. A few days later, as Keith and I were getting ready to go to work after breakfast, June came into our bedroom. Lisa, dear, I haven't had breakfast yet. I'm hungry. Huh? June, what are you talking about? You just ate breakfast a little while ago. June shook her head at my words. No, I hadn't eaten yet. Keith seems confused as well, and he looked at me. I had a bad feeling about this. June is 60 years old. It's a bit early for dementia, but the term early onset dementia crossed my mind. Lisa, can you take a day off from work? Keith, likely suspecting dementia as well, looked at me with concern. Yes, I can. I'll take June to the doctor today. I sent Keith off to work. At 9 a.m., when the clinic opened, June and I were sitting in the waiting room. Mrs. Davis, please come in. When a nurse called, I took June into the examination room. I explained June's symptoms to the doctor. What? June herself exclaimed in shock. She had no memory of eating breakfast twice. After several tests, June was diagnosed with early onset dementia. The shock of the diagnosis was significant. June stood frozen, unable to go home. Me having dementia? But I'm only 60. The reality of the situation was immeasurable. But I was also shocked by this diagnosis. It was as if I had been told that I had to take care of my 60-year-old mother-in-law with dementia, no less. Mom has dementia? When I told Keith about the diagnosis late that night, he was so shocked that he left his dinner unfinished. Don't be so down. Let's look forward. I'll do my best to gather information about caregiving. Let's do our best. I tried to encourage Keith, who seemed so disheartened by this turn of events. The next day was Saturday. The doorbell rang many times in the morning, and I answered it in my pajamas. "Oh, Lisa, it's just me and my daughter, Olivia. Can we come in? We have nowhere else to go." My sister-in-law, Amelia, whose divorce had just been finalized due to her husband's infidelity, visited with her daughter, Olivia. "Please wait a moment," I said, opening the door, stunned. Amelia was carrying a suitcase that almost reached her waist and 2 Boston bags. Olivia was also carrying a small Boston bag in each hand on top of her backpack. "What happened, Amelia?" "I have nowhere to go. Let me stay here with Olivia." Yesterday, my mother-in-law's dementia was discovered, and today Amelia and Olivia want to stay with us. I couldn't keep up with these rapid changes in my life. "Let us in already." As Amelia insisted, and I was dealing with her, Keith came out, looking flustered. "Sorry, Lisa, I forgot to tell you yesterday. My sister and niece are moving in with us today." "What? You didn't tell Lisa properly? Now I don't have a room ready or anything." Keith apologized profusely to me, saying, "I'm really sorry." He claimed he forgot to tell me about Amelia and Olivia's arrival because he was too shocked by his mother's diagnosis. But still, I was at a loss. Our house has only 2 bedrooms. Apart from the living room and dining kitchen, we have our bedroom and June's bedroom. There was no way we could make space for Amelia and Olivia. Look, my divorce is finalized, and I have nowhere to go. I stayed in a hotel last night, but I can't afford to live in hotels every day. When I explained that we didn't have a spare room, Amelia got angry. Olivia, tired, sat down in the entrance. "Oh, Olivia, don't sit there. Your clothes will get dirty. Amelia, please come in for now. Let's go inside." I hastily prepared slippers for Amelia and Olivia. They left their luggage in the entrance and went straight into the living room. "Wait, Amelia, what should I do with this luggage?" "You can take care of it. You're the housekeeper in this house, aren't you?" I don't know if Amelia had a housekeeper or not, but I was hurt to be called a housekeeper. I thought she was family, even if she was just my sister-in-law. That was a terrible verbal assault. I carried the luggage as told and placed it in the corner of the living room. I started preparing breakfast. Where should they eat? I wondered. I had no problem making breakfast, but there wasn't enough space. The dining table only had 3 chairs, so Amelia and Olivia would have to eat in the living room. Amelia, who had left her baggage unattended, had no intention of helping with breakfast and was already relaxing in the living room. Then June woke up. "Oh, Amelia, what are you doing here?" "Hi, Mom. Remember I called you yesterday? I said I'll be staying here from today." Upon hearing Amelia's word, June started to tear up. I'm sorry, Amelia. I was diagnosed with early onset dementia yesterday. I was so shocked that I don't remember much from yesterday." "Dementia? You?" "No way. That's not true, is it?" I moved to the living room while brewing coffee, intending to tell her the truth. "Hey, Lisa, don't interfere in the family matter. Just hurry up and make breakfast. We haven't eaten anything since last night and we're starving." "I'm sorry, but I'm also part of this family." I tried to reserve, but Amelia glared at me with a fierce look. "You? A member of our family? Don't make me laugh. I know all about it. You guys are moving into a new condo near the station soon, right? And the new condo has 3 bedrooms, meaning there are 3 rooms beside the living and dining room, right?" Amelia's intention was that Keith would take 1 room, June another, and Amelia and Olivia would use the last one. There was no mention of me in her plan. It seems like she didn't care what happened to the housekeeper as long as they had a place to stay. "Sis, let's not talk about the condo right now. We need to decide which rooms you guys will use until we move." Keith intervened, but it seems more like he was trying to appease his sister rather than help me. Breakfast was ready, and the dining table was occupied by Keith, June, and Amelia. "You're going to have a baby soon, right? You should get used to taking care of kids." Amelia seemed to want to dump Olivia's mealtime care on me. "Are you seriously suggesting that to a housekeeper?" I retorted sarcastically, and my usually mild-mannered mother-in-law snapped. "Olivia is a valued guest. As a wife, how dare you say you can't take care of my grandchild?" I was utterly shocked. I never imagined June would yell at me like that. Haha, Mom's finally back to her old self. Keith put his unfinished coffee on the table and laughed, holding his stomach. Amelia joined with a vulgar laugh. Huh, she's good at playing innocent. Acting like she has dementia. What a joke. Stunned, Keith said to me. Mom was always a bit of hysteric. I thought she had calmed down after we got married, but I guess people don't change their true nature so easily. Hysteric? June? On closer inspection, Amelia was quite a hysteric, too. She must have inherited from June. Oh, Olivia, you're spilling. While helping Olivia with her meal, I pondered about hysterics for a while. Then Keith, June, and Amelia decided on the room arrangements for this house. When Amelia joined, it became abundantly clear that I had no say in this house. Lisa, starting today, your bedroom is the living room. I heard from Keith that this sofa can become a bed. Huh? Where will you and Olivia be then? When I asked weakly, Amelia said with a triumphant look, Olivia and I will be in your and Keith's bedroom, and Keith will sleep with Mom starting today. This is Keith's and Mom's decisions, so just accept it quietly. Keith will sleep with your mother? I didn't mind that arrangement, but the thought of a 32-year-old man willingly sharing a bedroom with his mother was unsettling. At the same time, this decision made me feel like my love for Keith had diminished by half. Amelia's occupation of our house began, and simultaneously, June's dementia symptoms became more pronounced. Amelia, why are you in this house? And who is this little child? June's forgetfulness manifested in the form of her not remembering her own granddaughter, who should be her most precious relative. Mom, Olivia is your cute granddaughter. Why are you saying such things? Granddaughter? What's that? Is it something tasty? June tilted her head. From an outsider's perspective, she looked normal. Without someone whispering in your ear, you wouldn't know she had early onset dementia. Hey, Lisa, what's going on here? Amelia started to take her frustrations out on me. Even though there was nothing I could do, she would complain and find fault, seemingly to vent her frustrations. What do you mean? Mom has dementia. If you don't like it, feel free to leave. I almost said, but before I could, Amelia started talking again. I'm telling you to fix her dementia. If you have time to make excuses, go find a specialist. Her words were utterly nonsensical. I had consulted with Keith about Amelia's behavior many times. However, Keith, who now shared a bedroom with his increasingly demented mother, simply brushed it off, saying, I don't know. Lisa, I hadn't had lunch yet, but I'm not hungry. What did you feed me this morning? When June wasn't complaining, she was making a fuss. She had already eaten lunch twice, yet she claimed she hadn't eaten. I was nearing my physical and mental limits. The sofa bed didn't provide much rest. One night, Olivia even jumped on my stomach. I felt strongly that I would break down if things continued this way. June's dementia progressed, and she started wandering around at night. She often came back to her senses while wandering and returned home, but there were also nights when she would knock on the police station door, asking, Who am I? And be taken into protective custody. Give me a break, Lisa. I can't get any sleep like this. After being contacted by the police and picking up June, Keith woke me up in the living room despite the early hour. I don't know what you want me to do. You told me to sleep in the living room. It was 4 a.m. I wanted to get at least another 2 hours of sleep until my usual waking time, but Keith wouldn't allow it. Find a specialist, Lisa. You're being stingy with the treatment cost because she's your mother-in-law, aren't you? I was furious and sat up. Amelia had told me to find a specialist a few days ago. I thought it was a ridiculous request and ignored it, but for Keith to say the same thing. Why don't you try being in my shoes? If my mother had dementia, would you look for a specialist for me? That's not a realistic scenario. I can't afford to find a specialist for your mother on my meager salary. And if you had a higher salary, you would? We argued fiercely. You two are so noisy. What time do you think it is? Amelia's voice was far louder and more annoying than ours. That day, I went to work sleep-deprived. I couldn't bring myself to do any work, even after turning on my computer. I'm too tired, I thought. I considered using a vacation day and going home, but I had too many deadlines to meet. I decided against taking a day off. After that, Amelia, June, and Keith started to take my life even more difficult. Coming to work became my only solace. It was a space where no one yelled at me, and I was evaluated based on my performance. Why aren't you feeding me breakfast? I was getting used to June's constant questions, even right after she finished eating. I started making sandwiches and keeping them in a lunchbox, ready to be served whenever she asked. Amelia, if June says she's hungry, please give her the sandwich from the fridge. Okay. Amelia was a stay-at-home mom and had no intention of working outside the home. She planned to live off her ex-husband's alimony. During the day, Amelia was the only one who could take care of June. So, when I asked her to look after June, she had no choice but to agree. Amelia, can I talk to you for a minute? What is it? I turned around to see Amelia standing in the doorway, glaring at me. Are you looking for a specialist for your mother? Huh? I was taken aback by her sudden question. She's only getting worse, no better. She's been wandering around every night lately. What are you going to do about it? Dementia can be cured. We can only slow down its progression. I'm talking about your lack of effort. I hear you're quite well off. Then shouldn't you arrange for a house for Olivia and me? This woman is impossible, I thought. She wasn't making any effort to find a house or money on her own. She was only thinking about how to get those things from others. She didn't understand other people's pain at all. It was infuriating that she was trying to use the money I worked so hard to earn so freely. I don't think I have any obligation to provide you with a house. I stood my ground against Amelia. How dare a mere housekeeper talk back to me? Don't make me laugh. You should be serving me for the rest of your life. You should be spending all the money you earn on me. Who are you calling a housekeeper? I wanted to snap back, but I was about to be late for work. So I mustered all my strength and slammed the door shut. Later that day, my phone rang during work. I wondered who it could be and looked at the screen. It was my mother calling from my parents' home. I quickly got up and went to the hallway to answer the call. Hi, Mom, what's up? Oh, Lisa, your father... He was taken to the hospital by ambulance this morning. My father had collapsed at home and was rushed to the hospital. He still hadn't regained consciousness. I took the rest of the day off from work and rushed to the hospital. I saw my mother's small bag as she sat beside my unconscious father in the private room. Mom, how is Dad doing? My mother started crying when she saw me. She explained, sobbing, that after many tests, they found nothing wrong with my father's body. They believe he simply fell at home and was now unconscious due to minor concussion he sustained when he fell. Oh, it's just a mild concussion. I hope he wakes up soon. I'm sorry, Lisa. You were at work, weren't you? Thank you for coming all the way here. Don't worry about it, Mom. Say, would it be okay if I stay at your place for a while? Tears welled up in my eyes. I wanted to sleep in my own bed, wrapped in warm blankets, and have happy dreams. I wanted to laugh peacefully in a space where no one yelled at me. All this suppressed feeling came pouring out as tears. Lisa, it's nothing. I just feel relieved to hear that Dad's injuries weren't serious. After that, I contacted Keith and told him I would be staying at my parents' house for a while. Of course, he didn't just say, okay, sure. He complained about who would take care of his mother and do the housework. But my father was in the hospital and I couldn't just go back home. Mom is very unstable right now. I need to be there for her, I said and hung up. I hadn't yet realized that I had forgotten something very important. My father woke up soon after and was discharged from the hospital after only one night. As for me, I was enjoying the stress-free life at my parents' house. I wanted to avoid going back home as much as possible. A week passed like that. I was commuting to work from my parents' house and was finally recovering from exhaustions. And today was a holiday. I was sleeping in when my phone started ringing loudly in the morning, and I jumped out of bed. Hello? I was in a hurry, so I answered without checking who was calling. Hello, is this Miss Lisa? This is Allied Moving. I didn't recognize the man's voice on the phone. Yes? I replied, a little confused. Sorry, we're about to deliver your belongings, so could you please open the front door? Huh? Belongings? Then it hit me. Today was the day we were supposed to move from Keith's house to the new condo. I had been staying at my parents' for a week and completely forgot about the move. How careless of me. Yes, I'll open it now. I answered and opened the front door in my pajamas. Then I thought, wait a minute. Today was the day we were moving from my current house, that is, my husband's and mother-in-law's house, to the new condo near the station. It was definitely not the day to move to my parents' house. So what was being delivered? As I was wondering, I opened the front door, and there was a small truck in the front yard. What is all this? As I stood there, bewildered, wondering what was going on, my phone started ringing again. This time it was Keith calling. I answered after confirming it was him. I'll live with Mom and my lover, so we're getting a divorce. It's your fault for being so complacent. I heard Keith and June's cheerful voice over the phone, and I was mildly confused. I'm pretty sure Keith just mentioned his lover. I wasn't sure of my own memory, so I turned on my voice recorder. Would you repeat that one more time? I'll say it as many times as you want. I'm going to live with my mother and with Susan, so we're getting a divorce. Oh, is this the live-in manager? I'm Susan Brown. I've been dating Keith, so I expect divorce proceedings to go smoothly. The woman's voice on the phone was, surprisingly, that of my subordinate, Susan Brown. Susan was only 25 but was known for her skill in charming men. Her trademark was her upward inflection at the end of sentences and referring to herself in the third person. I had no idea that my husband was cheating on me with her. I was no longer interested in her. I wanted to be true to my own feelings. Before I knew it, I was shouting with joy and raising both hands in the chair. I will think about what to do with that new condominium later. Anyway, if I am free from my demented mother-in-law, hysterical sister-in-law, mischievous niece, and unreliable husband, that this is the happiest thing that could happen. What? Are you okay with this? So, a truck should have arrived around now. I sent all your belongings, so make sure you receive them. Keith asked me, as if to check my reaction. Of course, I'm okay with it. I understand about the luggage, too. I will consult a lawyer before arranging the divorce papers. A lawyer? Why are you making this difficult? It is too much trouble to get a lawyer involved. I just want to quickly get this over with. Susan's words were annoying. That's right. I didn't even know we needed a lawyer to get a divorce. What's wrong with you, Keith? June, who seemed normal at the moment, was speaking clearly. Why do you think it's possible to get a divorce without going through a lawyer? Do you have something to gain? I can't imagine that you do, though. When I spoke sharply, Keith's expression changed. No, that's not it. If you just listen, you'll understand. Lisa, I'm not after the settlement money. I truly love Susan. I want to make her happy. So you could find a guy, too, and ask for a divorce. Then I can get alimony from you. It was as if he was saying that the settlement money was his goal. I hung up the phone, dumbfounded. Lisa, what's all the commotion about since this morning? And what's with this truck? My parents, having heard the noise in the yard, came outside to see what was happening. Oh, Mom, Dad, Keith said he wants a divorce. What? Keith did? That serious and sincere Keith wants a divorce? What on earth did you do, Lisa? Well, it's a long story, but for now, can you help me get my stuff inside? I have all my belongings brought inside the house. Since it was sudden, they were brought into a room that was only used for the family altar. Then I sat down with my parents in the living room. When I told them I wanted to break up with Keith, my father got very angry. Cheating is unforgivable. I never thought he was that kind of guy. I know, he seemed like such a nice, upstanding young man. How could he? I also revealed the issue with my in-laws. Oh dear, your mother-in-law have early onset dementia? That must have been tough. Lisa, you were taking care of your mother-in-law too? And on top of that, a divorce? Unforgivable. My parents accepted my story as the truth and promised that they would never let me return to Keith's house again. Thank you, Dad, Mom. For now, I'm going to focus on getting a divorce. After telling my parents about the current situation, I decided to head to the condominium that should have been in the middle of the moving process. My parents were against me having any further contact with Keith, but there was a reason I had to go. Dad, Mom, please let me go just for today. I won't go near them after today. I said with a determined look, and without waiting to the response, I rushed out of the house. I hailed a taxi and rode for about 10 minutes. The exceptionally tall condominium standing in front of the station was the new condo I was supposed to move into. When I got out of the taxi, I saw a moving company truck parked in front of the condominium, and movers were busy loading and unloading. I spotted Keith and Susan standing side by side in front of the condominium, watching the movers. It was frustrating, but they looked good together. They seemed like a couple who had been together for many years, which made me feel a bit bitter. I hadn't completely gotten over Keith yet. He was a man I had once loved with all my heart. It wasn't easy to forget him. But the fact was that Keith was now captivated by Susan, and no matter how much I struggled, his feeling wouldn't return to me. "Excuse me, you two." I braced myself and called out to their backs. Keith turned around first and looked at me with an annoyed expression. "Lisa, what are you— Oh, right, you're the one who's in the wrong here, not going through with the move and going back to your parents' place." But the next moment, I was shocked. The movers were carrying out Amelia's large suitcases and Boston bags, and even Olivia's backpack, and loading them onto a cart. "What's going on here? Is Amelia going to live with you too?" I had heard over the phone that he would be living with his mother and Susan, but to think that even his sister and niece were included, my jaw dropped. "Well, they say they have nowhere to go. I can't just leave them, can I?" Susan, who had been silently standing next to Keith, finally spoke. "I'm the live-in manager. Nice to meet you. I'll do my best to be useful. There's a nosy older sister and mother though. I'll do my best to ignore them." Then Keith took out a folded document from his pocket and held it out to me. "Hey Lisa, I submitted this document, but the courthouse rejected it. Do you know why? I think they said something about bigamy." I was so shocked when I saw the document that I thought my eyes would pop out. What Keith was holding was a marriage registration form with Susan's name on it. We hadn't even officially divorced yet, so of course, the city hall wouldn't accept it. I had a headache wondering why my husband would do such a stupid thing. I also wondered about Susan, who didn't stop such an idiotic act of his. "Susan, what's the meaning of this? Don't tell me you've forgotten that Keith and I are still legally married." "Oh, I don't know anything about complicated stuff. Keith asked me to fill it out, so I just did it." "What's so complicated about it? Isn't it a simple story?" I explained to Keith that bigamy means being married to multiple people at the same time and that the marriage registration with Susan wouldn't be accepted until our divorce was finalized. "Lisa, you really know your stuff. That's the kind of thing I really respect about you. You're just incredibly stupid. Anyway, that's not why I came here today. I'm putting this condo up for sale." "What?" My declaration made Keith and Susan's eyes widen in surprise. "This is my house. I can do whatever I want with it. This house is in my name." When I took out the loan, Keith, whose income was unstable, was rejected by the bank. I passed the inspection because of my stable, high income. I also paid the down payment in full. Keith has no right to say anything. Hold on a minute. Then what are we supposed to do?" Keith, sensing that he was about to be thrown out, desperately tried to approach me. "For now, you should stop the move and go back to the old apartment." No way. I won't accept this. This house is half mine too." "Huh? Why do you think that? You haven't contributed a single penny to this condo. Can you explain why you think half of it is yours?" "Well, I'm getting bored. You said it was your condo, Keith, but it's totally different. And it doesn't look like you'll be able to get any money from the live-in manager either." "Hey, what are you saying? Don't say things like you're only in it for money. We love each other, right?" "It's too late for that. I'm done with you. I'm going home. I was so disappointed that you turned out to be poor, saying you were rich and all." Leaving Keith behind, Susan turned her back on the condo. I wondered what she was all about. The movers, sensing the strained atmosphere, had stopped working a while ago and were watching us. Then June, Amelia, and Olivia came down to the entrance, perhaps because they were tired of waiting for the moving process. "Keith, what are you doing? Where did Susan go?" Keith shook his head at his mother's question. "Mom, Susan dumped me. I guess I have no choice but to make it work with Lisa." He said something as if he were compromising with me. I found it incredibly rude, but I decided to let it go for now. There's no need for Susan. She didn't do anything anyway. She just watched TV and ate snack all the time. She only saw me as a housekeeper. Amelia complained about Susan. Apparently, Susan had been using Amelia, and she looked quite exhausted. I applaud Susan's audacity in my mind, thinking that she managed to wear down Amelia so much. Besides, Amelia had been calling me a housekeeper all this time. If she suffered the same treatment, it was karma. Oh, good timing. Lisa, hurry up and finish unpacking. What are you waiting for? Amelia saw me and ordered me around as if it were the most natural thing in the world. June seemed to want to say the same thing, staring at me intently. I'm selling this condo, and I'm not letting any of you set foot in my house, especially not after we divorce and become strangers. I'm no longer a member of your family. I also gave instructions to the movers. I'm sorry for the trouble. Please return all the belongings to where they were originally. I understand there will be charges, so please bill me later. I made an unreasonable request to the movers, and they nodded once and started loading the unloaded belongings back onto the truck. I'll be seeking compensation for the divorce, of course. I'll make sure to get back the emotional distress caused by your mother and sister and the pain I suffered from your infidelity. Huh? What emotional distress? There's no way I'm acknowledging that. A wife is a housekeeper. It's natural for a wife to serve the house. You should be serving me, your mother, and Keith. That's not true. My father's voice suddenly rang out. When I turned around in surprise, my parents were standing there, looking furious. Dad, Mom, why are you here? We came here because we didn't want you to be taken advantage of. We've been watching for a while. What a terrible group of people. My mother looked at the scene with a pained expression. Seeing my parents come to my rescue made me tear up. How reassuring it was to have family on your side. Seeing my parents come to my rescue at this crucial moment made them seem very strong and reliable. We moved to the original apartment and held a discussion between Keith and his family. Lisa, I'm hungry. Is breakfast ready yet? June asked, but I ignored her. I was no longer going to be their daughter-in-law, so why should I take care of her? Amelia sighed deeply, got up, went to the kitchen where appliances were haphazardly placed, and started making something. Why does she keep forgetting that she's already eaten breakfast? This early onset dementia is such a pain. If the housekeeper isn't here, I have to do all the chores. It's so unfair. Amelia was grumbling loudly, but June kept repeating, I'm hungry, not understanding what Amelia was saying. Keith was dejected, perhaps because Susan had dumped him. I turned on the voice recorder in my pocket, ready for the discussion to begin. Keith, I really don't understand something. What don't you understand? You bought that condo as a couple, so half of it belongs to you, right? But why does Lisa declare it as her own and say she's going to sell it? I don't understand. Since you're a couple, shouldn't it be your condo too? I hear that condo is in Lisa's name. If you're not involved in the mortgage at all, then that condo belongs to Lisa. Also, using the word couple when you're about to get divorced is questionable, my father said. I have my doubts about your morals. You cheated on her, made Lisa take care of your mother and Amelia, and even called her a housekeeper, didn't you? Lisa was called a housekeeper by my sister, not me. I'm not in the wrong here. Then Amelia's angry voice came from the kitchen. You should insist that you have no fault in this, Keith. That way you get the alimony. Hearing Amelia's statement, my mother frowned in disgust. She probably couldn't hide her disappointment, as she had believed until recently that her daughter was happily married to Keith. You are too harsh, Amelia. There's no obligation for Lisa to pay alimony in this divorce. Keith is the one who cheated first. My father's sharp word made Amelia, Keith, and even June, who was demanding food, freeze. So, I'm the one at fault? Of course you are. Even if you haven't cheated, you never once protected Lisa when she was called a housekeeper, isn't that right? When my father slammed his hand on the table, Keith and his family visibly flinched. Also, I'm a lawyer. I can't represent my own family, but I can have a skilled lawyer from my firm intervene. You guys should be prepared. The discussion between the two families, though somewhat one-sided, was concluded by my father. The next day, when I went to work from my parents' house, Susan was waiting for me. I'm disappointed. Why didn't you give the condo to Keith? I would have been so happy if you had given it to us. I don't know how Susan and Keith started dating, but it wasn't a pleasant story for me. Keith told me that he was super rich. That's why I fell in love with him. Susan said that she had never been given anything by Keith while they were dating. No matter where they went, it was always Dutch treat. Still, Keith told Susan that he owned a condo near the station, claiming he had bought it himself. Susan also thought that buying a condo would require a lot of mortgage payment, so she didn't ask for money and pay for things herself. But I think you're rich. Why didn't you give Keith an allowance? If you had done that, I wouldn't have had to spend my own money. I'm so annoyed. It was at a loss for words, wondering why Keith would marry such a woman. Also, Keith's mother, his sister, and that little kid were so annoying. How could you live in such a tiny condo with them? After hearing Susan's incomprehensible rumbling, we finished our unpleasant conversation and went to our respective desks. But immediately after that, Susan and I were called by the CFO, and we went to the conference room. Susan Brown, you've been embezzling company funds. The CFO's stern voice echoed in the small conference room. Hearing those words, Susan instantly turned pale. No, I haven't. The CFO placed Susan's expense reports on the table in front of her as she tried to deny it. These are all the expense reports you've submitted since you've joined the company. There are entries for cosmetics and clothing under miscellaneous expenses. I looked closely at the documents and was appalled. She had actually bought cosmetics and clothing with company money. What on earth was she thinking? There was no way this would be approved as expenses. Well, makeup and clothes are necessary for coming to work, right? So I thought it would be okay for the company to buy them for me. Absolutely not. These are clearly your personal belongings. You're to stay at your desk until further notice. After Susan left, I immediately apologized to the CFO. I'm sorry, I wasn't thorough enough in my supervision. No, look closely, Lisa. Compared to the signatures on the expense reports used by other employees and the ones used by Susan, the signatures are different, aren't they? To submit expense reports to accounting, my direct signature was required. Therefore, I looked through all of my subordinates' expense reports. I signed them and passed them on to accounting. However, on closer inspection, although the signature on Susan's expense report resembled mine, the handwriting was more rounded. In other words, Susan, knowing that her actions would be problematic if discovered, had forged my signature. This is likely grounds for embezzlement charges. Not long after, news of Susan's embezzlement reached the CEO, and she was summarily dismissed. This marked the end of her roughly 2-year career at our company. It's not fair. I did nothing wrong. Susan protested until the end, but HR ignored her and escorted her out of the building. I also started visiting a law firm frequently to proceed with the divorce. The lawyer my father introduced me to was a kind, gentle, and intelligent man specializing in divorce cases. Since Keith and Susan had already separated, it wasn't possible to catch them in the act of infidelity. However, I had kept the voice recorder on during the day of the move to the condo, so I had evidence of their affair. You've been through a lot, he said with a complicated expression, but I simply nodded silently in response. Since then, June's dementia had progressed, and she was no longer manageable. Amelia decided to move out, separating from Keith and her mother. Amelia, who had no savings or cash, was able to find a cheap apartment through an acquaintance in real estate thanks to her alimony payments. It's all your fault for not keeping Lisa tied down. If she were here, my life would have been so much easier. Amelia left with these parting words. I thought she was a selfish person until the very end, but I decided to be glad that I was finally rid of her. As for June, her moments of lucidity were becoming shorter and shorter, unable to bear it any longer. Keith finally used his meager savings to place her in a nursing home. Hey Lisa, can we really start over? After our divorce was finalized, Keith asked me with an unusually serious expression. What are you talking about? We just got divorced. Yeah, but I still... Don't say things that are not true. You were having an affair with Susan, and you never once protected me from your family. When I said this firmly, Keith hung his head in defeat. Goodbye, Keith. Make sure you pay the alimony. Surprisingly, I felt refreshed after the divorce was finalized. I felt lighter, knowing that I no longer had to live under the control of Keith's family. I will follow my own path. I'm going to focus on my work. I eventually sold a new condo. I used the proceeds to pay off most of the mortgage, but there was still some debt remaining. I renewed my determination to keep running until I paid it off in full.